And we have to analyze the use of cryptocurrency not only in terms of BRICS.
The BRICS alliance is expanding. Iran, Saudi Arabia, Argentina, and the United Arab Emirates and others announced their involvement as of 2024. Over 40 countries expressed their interest in joining. The BRICS alliance is something that we have been following really closely here at the Coin Bureau, and if you haven't watched our most recent videos on the BRICS, I'll leave a link in the description. In this interview, I'm speaking with Jose Ricardo Jr., the co-founder of LIDE China and a researcher for the BRICS study group. We'll be covering if BRICS countries are en route to becoming some of the leading economies. Could this shift the dollar dominance towards an alternative, a BRICS currency perhaps? And would the BRICS coalition ever adopt crypto? So Jose, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me here, Jessica. I'm doing fine. And you?
Very good, thank you. So we've got a fascinating topic at hand today. I'm very much looking forward to picking your brains here. And just starting off, so Jose, you were recently a speaker at the BRICS seminar in Johannesburg, South Africa, on a panel facilitating economic transitions. What did you take away from BRICS 2023?
My experience is that my feeling, honestly speaking, is that people are more integrated now. For example, I joined the BRICS Summit in 2011, which was held in Sanya. Sanya is an island down south in China. And my perception about that during that time is that the Russians were in a specific group, not mixing too much with the Indians and also with the Chinese, and the Brazilians were also somehow not as well interconnected as I felt during this time in Johannesburg. I was there in the BRICS reform of global governance, and my speech was about economic development, was an inclusive economic development. And my feeling is that people are more integrated, people are more curious about each other, and I can see the South Africans getting in touch with the Russians, with the Indians, with the Brazilians, and the Chinese. So it's a more prepared after so many debates, right? Because BRICS actually, the first summit happened in 2009. And now it was a very challenging one because this BRICS summit held in Johannesburg was the first after a long time only online video conferences. So this was a very challenging one because as you said in the first minute of this conversation, there are thousands of topics to be discussed, not only including the less use or the de-dollarization of the use of US dollar in the trade between the BRICS countries. We're talking about also about the BRICS Plus. We are talking about the new technologies, about sustainability, about climate health, and etc. So it was very challenging, and at the same time, it was really exciting to see the depth of the debates that were held during this BRICS summit in Johannesburg.
And something you said there, which was, it sounds like it's a lot more inclusive when it comes to some of the conversations within different countries in the BRICS alliance there. And it's quite interesting because Jim O'Neill, who's a former chairman of Goldman Sachs, he'd predicted that BRICS countries would become the largest economies by 2050. And he said this back in 2001. Now, with the new additions that came out this year that definitely made headline news across mainstream media, the likes of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, I'd like to get your take on if this is a realistic goal now.
Jim O'Neill was very happy to see this acronym of BRICS in 2001, and to his opinion at that time, we would have a very quick economic growth, but actually it didn't happen as it was expected. But if you look in the long term, the BRICS countries are doing really great. We have a huge potential. Because of what? Because we have a huge population. We are over 3 billion people. Two countries of the BRICS, India and China, they have over 1 billion people each one. We are talking about huge arable land. And also, we have a lot of natural resources. Natural resources including oil, including natural gas, including iron ore, water, and etc. So there's a huge potential of growth. And if you see the BRICS, if you analyze the BRICS as a whole in terms of population, the BRICS countries they are comprised of 41% of the total population. With the BRICS expansion that I think that we're going to discuss later on, we're going to have 46%. And why we are going to have 46%? Because Argentina, Ethiopia, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and also Iran, they were invited to join the BRICS, but actually they will effectively be on the group after January 2024. So in terms of population, we are very significant. In terms of economy, we also have this we have this strength to communicate and have voice. This is what we are discussing right now, is that this global south now has voice to try to reform the global governance, the new economic order. In terms of, for example, the GDP, we were representing 26%, and now with the BRICS Plus, we will represent 29%. So again, we are talking about countries that were in the past ignored, and now they are filling Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and these new invited guests, the 6 countries, want to express themselves and wants to have a position in terms of not only of economic, but also in terms of politics in the world.
And you said that the acronym BRICS was something that Jim O'Neill from Goldman Sachs was really excited about initially. So before we look forward, I think it's quite interesting for our viewers to look back as well at some of the factors that maybe contributed to Wall Street's initial bullish sentiment. As you've mentioned, the stretch of the BRICS alliance is enormous. So there was a very bullish sentiment in the early 2010s, for example. But it did turn bearish in 2014. Can you talk us through that shift? What exactly happened?
Well, that's a very important point, Jessica, that you highlighted, especially because if everything went wrong with BRICS, I would say that at least it was created a very important organization inside BRICS, which is the New Development Bank. The New Development Bank was established in 2014. With a reserve of 100 billion US. At the beginning, it was only Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. But in the end, it also other countries were invited and already joined, including United Arab Emirates, Uruguay, Bangladesh. So, what is the role of the New Development Bank? It's not to be against the International Monetary Fund. Neither the World Bank. It's an alternative. So BRICS, in its essence, is an alternative to the emerging countries to express themselves in the world. So the New Development Bank, the positive thing about it is that it offers support not only to the public, but also to the private projects in emerging economies. So this is the first thing. It's not a bank that will provide loans, for example, only for the BRICS countries themselves, but also to other emerging economies in need, especially in infrastructure, in clean energy, in education, and so on. So the idea of establishing this New Development Bank is to have an inclusive multilateralism. And that's the reason why this bank was created in 2014. during the BRICS summit, which was held, by the way, in Brazil, in Fortaleza, in the northeast side of Brazil. So the idea would be to develop a bank which would offer the necessary support that would help the emerging countries, the emerging economies, to those in need to develop themselves throughout some loans and some financial support, especially on infrastructure and clean energy.
And you've mentioned the New Development Bank there as being one of the kind of key organisations created by BRICS countries. I'm curious to ask, when it comes to challenging the existing global financial order, you've mentioned the IMF, you've mentioned the World Bank there. How is the New Development Bank really challenging what we have currently in place and possibly had in place?
Well, it's adding alternatives, right? And again, having the New Development Bank as a multilateral bank here in together with the IMF and World Bank does not make them opposite sides. And an example of that was just that the general director of IMF just met Dilma Rousseff this early September in Shanghai. Dilma Rousseff now is she was previously the president of Brazil, and now she's the president of the New Development Bank. So the banks, they communicate and they cooperate, they exchange synergies. But again, we are what the BRICS were emphasizing in the past was that they were being ignored. Interest rates, for example, for South Africa was much higher than developed countries. This is just an example to say that now, as an alternative, the New Development Bank provides an opportunity for these countries to play a major role in the world. And it's not to be against of G7. It's not to be against the already existing platforms such as IMF and World Bank, which were established in 1945. But it's an alternative. It's an alternative to help to build a common shared future for all humankind. And this bank is in alliance with the UN 2030 agenda of the Sustainable Development Goals, not only in terms of innovation, technology, but also in terms of sustainability and also inclusion. So, and this, by the way, were the key pillars, I may say, from the previous BRICS summit, which was held in Johannesburg in South Africa in 2023. It's the technology, how technology can contribute to this new world, sustainability, and also inclusion. When we talk about technology, we are talking about several new ideas, not only in terms of Bitcoin, in terms of cryptocurrency, but we are talking about smart and intelligent industries. In Brazil, we are talking, for example, about the new industrialization, which is a sustainable industrialization. We are talking about the use of the AI, the use of this new cloud computing, the AI, the cloud computing, the smart manufacturing, about the use of drones, for example, in agriculture. It's proven with the digitalization, for example, with the 5G telecommunication and the use of drones and rovers, that the production, for example, in arable land can be much more sustainable in terms of the necessary use of water and also in terms of the pesticides. Because with the pictures that are sent immediately from the drones and from the rovers that goes in the land, for example, they are sent and analyzed in real time. And they can see in each area that the water resources are being implemented, and also the pesticides. So in the end, you have the smart use of the water, and also you can avoid to use so much pesticides on food. So this is technology and also sustainability. This is just one example. Another one could be, for example, the electric vehicles and so on.
Sorry to interrupt you folks, but I have to let you know about the Coin Bureau deals page. My team and I have been able to pull together some of the best promos and discounts in the crypto space. We're talking trading fee discounts of over 50%, thousands of dollars in bonus airdrops, amazing deals at top exchanges, and reduced prices on hardware wallets, and much, much more besides. So just go to coinbureau.com/deals, also linked to below, and find the promo suited to you. And now, back to the video.
So you've mentioned that merger between technology here, and obviously, as you may be familiar, Coin Bureau, we are kind of at the forefront of talking about technology as it comes and appears and impacts everyday life. One of the really interesting talks that came out following BRICS, we saw the Brazil's president earlier in 2023 visiting the new development bank in Shanghai, and he spoke about dollar dependency, especially when it comes to exports. So you've mentioned new technology there, and I think a lot of people are wondering about a new currency that could possibly emerge from BRICS and what that would look like. And I'd like to get your opinion on that. Just paint that picture for us as someone that is so closely involved with BRICS.
Jessica, that's a very interesting point. We're talking between BRICS countries about the use of other currencies, not only the US dollar. And this is, again, this is not something that the BRICS countries are against, but we are trying to develop new ideas, new alternatives. So giving an example of bilateral relations, Brazil and China. Brazil and China, they signed, the Brazilian central bank with the Chinese central bank, they signed a bilateral agreement in which now the trade between both countries can use the yuan, the renminbi, the Chinese local currency. This has been very successful already. It was implemented early 2023, and it has been on news. Why? Because the alternative to use the local currency in spite of US dollar, you avoid the fluctuation of the rates of US dollar. So it's cheaper, and also about the timing. The time of the transfer is much quicker. So it's more convenient for both countries sometimes to use the yuan in spite of US dollar. What President Lula was highlighting, the president of Brazil was highlighting before, was the possibility to use local currencies among the BRICS countries. You mentioned about Jim O'Neill, right? Jim O'Neill from Goldman Sachs criticized that idea, not having a great belief on the use of these currencies. So far, the BRICS countries, they don't know how to implement that. They are not completely aware if they're going to use, for example, Bitcoin, if they are going to use gold as a reserve of this new basket. And some of them are using the idea that was provided by a Russian think tank, which this new idea is called R5. Why R5? Because the BRICS countries' currencies, they begin with the letter R. So Brazil is Brazilian real, Russia is the ruble, India is the rupee, China is the renminbi, and South Africa is the rand. So would be the use of these 5 local currencies. But again, there is a big room for discussion. And usually I like to see half of the glass full in terms, and I will quote Nelson Mandela. He stated before that everything seems impossible until it's done. So for sure, we're going to have a big debate of how to implement this idea of using the local currencies, or use new technologies such as Bitcoin. In terms of Bitcoin, Jessica, we have to understand if the countries they would not be too vulnerable in terms of ceding this sovereignty to use the Bitcoins. So again, it's a matter of promoting debates. It's a matter of promoting specific forums to discuss technology. If you allow me, I would like to read one specific part of the Declaration of Johannesburg in South Africa. The paragraph 36, it highlights the importance of technology. So it mentions about several specific forums that has to be debated technology. And if we analyze, for example, BRICS and cryptocurrency, we don't see in the declaration anything related to that. But at the same time, there are some guidelines in terms of the BRICS partner. What is BRICS partner? Is the BRICS Partnership on Industrial Revolution, meaning that the BRICS countries, they will develop some specific forums to discuss about the 4.0 revolution. And for that, there is this BRICS Partnership New Industrial Revolution, and one of the headquarters is also in China, in Xiamen, which was established, by the way, by President Xi Jinping.
And that's really interesting, and something you said there regarding kind of cryptocurrencies and specifically Bitcoin. Out of interest, out of the countries that are in the BRICS alliance, have there been some that have been more progressive towards potentially seeing Bitcoin as the native BRICS currency moving forward? We have seen some of the countries within the BRICS alliance having some clear advancements towards using Bitcoin as a form of trade. So what have been some of the conversations there in a potentially pro-Bitcoin narrative?
During this BRICS forum, I haven't seen any debates on that. I haven't seen any debates on cryptocurrency, neither on Bitcoin specifically, talking about Bitcoin. But honestly, it's an alternative that has to be analyzed and has to be discussed, because Bitcoin just pop up, right, in terms of people realize the potentialities of Bitcoin, the potentialities of the cryptocurrency, the safety of that. But the governments, they need to be involved and they need to be engaged, because what is in hands of the government is if they're gonna cede their sovereignty in order to apply Bitcoins on the trade between those countries. And when we talk about trade between Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, we are talking about a huge trade, and a trade not that will be with a huge volume. For example, Brazil and China have, comparing only 2022, the trade between Brazil and China, I mean the import and export, was of 150.4 billion US. Is the biggest player, the biggest trader for Brazil, and China is also the biggest trader for several emerging countries. So we have to discuss this very carefully, and we have to analyze the use of cryptocurrency not only in terms of BRICS, but in terms of other projects that are being held between countries. For example, the Belt and Road Initiative. The Belt and Road Initiative, which is a project established by the People's Republic of China in 2013, will have its anniversary in September this year, celebrating 10 years of developing not only infrastructure, but also digital infrastructure. If we talk about the digital Silk Road, because we have the Belt and Road, and we have also the digital Silk Road, there was a huge progress in terms of 5G technology, in terms of cloud computing, in terms of Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, and so on. So there are several forums in which we have to debate more about not only the convenience of using Bitcoin, but also the safety, which is one of the pillars to have a proper trade between the BRICS countries.
And another conversation was also potentially to have a BRICS currency that was backed by commodities. Gold was a big narrative that we saw. What's your take on that? Is that something that might be a stepping stone into a larger format, maybe technology inclusive BRICS currency?
Well, in terms of gold, the former vice president of New Development Bank, who is a Brazilian named Paulo Nogueira. He was also in this BRICS forum on global governance in Johannesburg, and he stated that this is one of the alternatives to use gold in this new basket of currencies. Again, it's too early to say whether it's going to be implemented and whether it's going to be feasible. But gold is one of the commodities which were discussed. So this is not something that can be ignored. We have to see again in specific forums, because we have besides having the BRICS forum, we have a lot of different specific forums for specific topics, and on these specific forums we have to enhance our knowledge in terms of this type of use of these local currencies. And again, it's only a matter of time. To my eyes, I think that it definitely not only can be implemented, but will be implemented in the near future.
And something that's really impressed me is the sheer size of these trade relationships. You've mentioned the size of the trade relationships between China and Brazil here. So for 2023, a big year for BRICS because we saw 6 countries being added onto the alliance. There was around 40 countries expressing their interest. So what is the significance of these invitations, and what does it mean for the countries that are now looking to join?
This is a very tough question, Jessica. I think that we could stay the whole program discussing about it, especially because there are some people that it's in favor and other people against it, because of the criteria. What was the criteria to accept so many different profiles of countries in terms of, we're talking about Argentina, which is facing a huge economic crisis. We are talking about Ethiopia, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Iran. These countries have some positive things in terms of contributing to BRICS, but also as at the same time challenging things. For example, human rights. Some of these countries, they have a different position in terms of human rights. When we talk about clean energy, BRICS is debating and emphasizing the importance of sustainability. So Saudi Arabia would emphasize the importance of this clean energy when at the same time they have it's a full fossil state, a rich full fossil state. So it's a big question. At the same time, having, for example, Iran, having, for example, Saudi Arabia inside the BRICS makes the BRICS having 43% of the total petroleum of the world. So at the same time, the BRICS also is gaining voices in terms of petroleum, in terms of this discussion, this worldwide discussion. So we have to analyze what would be the criteria, not for these new countries, for the 6 countries that were already invited and will join us in January 2024. But for the coming countries, as you well said, there were 40 countries willing to join this global south, the BRICS. What would be the criteria to choose and select these new countries? Some people are discussing if this six new countries would be beneficial to Brazil and India. According to the Brazilian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, it was a very positive thing in terms of having China supporting the developing countries in the UN, in the Security Council of UN. In the Declaration of Johannesburg, it's stated the opinion of the BRICS countries to have Brazil, to have South Africa, for example, and India in the Security Council of UN. But at the same time, again, we are talking about having 6 completely different countries with 6 completely different opinions. Would it diversify the discussions, or the BRICS countries would lose power, would lose voice inside the BRICS themselves because of these new 6 ones? It's too early to say that. But in terms of economy, I would definitely highlight that from the total global GDP of 26%, now with the new 6 ones, we will represent 29% with over 3 billion population, huge consumption potential. And in terms of petroleum, we will have 43%. And in terms of lithium, which is the white gold, which is used, for example, a lot in electric vehicles, we're going to represent 54%. So it's time now that we invited, when I say we, because I am a Brazilian, okay? When the BRICS invited the 6 new countries, we have to define in the specific forums what would be the needs and what would be the ideas in terms of technology, in terms of sustainability, in terms of health, in terms of education, and so on. It's too early to say if it's going to be positive or negative. To my honest opinion, they will, having new countries in the BRICS will provide and will benefit us for gaining more muscles and gaining more voice in different specific economic sectors.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for summarising everything. I think you've given our viewers a really good example of just the size of the BRICS alliance and some of the next steps as well. We've mentioned the terms cryptocurrency and Bitcoin a few times in this conversation, although you've said that you've not specifically sat in and heard of Bitcoin being discussed. There is still an open table for emerging technology to be incorporated in some of these trades. So really enjoyed the conversation. For anyone that does want to potentially hear more, how can they find you, Jose, on LinkedIn, or where can they hear more if they want to continue on from this conversation?
Well, time really flies, right? I haven't realized that we were in this half an hour conversation. It was really good. Thank you very much. People can find me in Instagram, for example. It's at josericardo.80, josericardo.80, or in any of the social media of LIDE China, LIDE which means Business Leadership Group China. I represent a business platform which unites the Brazilian with the Chinese entrepreneurs, always with the help and the support of the Brazilian and the Chinese government.
So Jose, thank you so much for your insights today. It was great to discuss with you and I really appreciate your time. And for everyone that is watching, if you like this video and you want to see more content like this, Let us know in the comments below. As usual, if you enjoyed it, you can hit the like button, hit the subscribe bell, and also head over to our deals page where you can find some of the best deals in the cryptocurrency space. The link is down below. We have some of the best discounts on some of the top cryptocurrency wallets and up to $40,000 in bonus airdrops at some of the leading crypto exchanges, only for the viewers of this channel. Thank you so much for watching and see you all again soon.